When Jesus feeds the 5,000 in Matthew chapter 14, there are many characters in this. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to glean, and we can really relate to all of the characters. We can relate to Jesus, who in this moment was trying to find a quiet place alone for some solitude, having just heard that his cousin John had been executed in prison. So he's grieving, trying to find a place to himself, no doubt concerned even for what lays ahead for him at Calvary. And we can relate to that. We can relate to grief. We can relate to those that need to get alone and pray and seek peace and guidance and strength. In this moment, the multitude finds him, and he sees them and has compassion and heals their sick. Now, there are 5,000 plus people in this group, and Jesus doesn't get mad because he was trying to find some time alone. He's not frustrated. He sees their need, and he goes through this huge group of people and touches and heals them. So Jesus gives us a really great example of still having compassion, turning our sorrow and our own grief into love and compassion to give to others in theirs. So we can relate to Jesus, and we can relate to the disciples who, at this time, after healing all of these people, they come to Jesus. They're like, hey, this is a great idea. We know that we're showing care for these people. Jesus, they really probably need to get some food, so they might need to go to the surrounding villages and get some food. And of course, Jesus has to kind of turn it on them and say, well, why don't you just feed them? You do it. And the disciples are like, well, we don't have much here. Some loaves and a couple fish. And Jesus is like, well, bring it to me. So we can relate to the disciples and say, Lord, we know that you've got something for us to do here, and you want to send us to give to the many out of what little we have. But we can relate here and really begin to realize that we shouldn't assume that we need anything but Jesus in those moments where we feel like we don't have a whole lot. All we need is Jesus, and he can constantly multiply what little we have. And we can also relate to the multitude. We can relate to being in desperate need, whether it's healing, in their case, lots of physical needs, whether it's a need of strength, of peace, of refreshing and strength. We can relate to all of these characters in this story. But what I would like for us to think about today as we reflect on this account together are three things. One, we always desperately need Jesus. Number two, he always gives everything that we need in generous, abundant supply. And number three, in his kingdom, there's always more where that came from. There's always enough to give away, even when we might be struggling ourselves. We're not the source, so we can take rest and strength in knowing that in his kingdom, anything that we give, he's just gonna multiply, and we're just gonna watch it keep on giving. So meditate on those three things today and watch God continuously supply in abundance in his kingdom.